Back.
Can you see me or, okay.
Yes, we can.
What do you see now?
Just, we don't see anything.
Oh, that's weird.
Participants is increasing.
Can you see the participant? Oh, yeah, 16, 17, 18, 19.
Yeah.
No, it's to zoom out.
Oh, I
You tell me when I am supposed to speak, okay?
Good morning and good evening. We'll start in about 1 minute. Good morning, Australia, and good evening, Brazil. Welcome to the inaugural event of the Australia-Brazil Women's Research Engineers Network. Thank you for logging in today to join us. Today, we celebrate you and the work that you're doing, and we look to understanding more about each other's countries. Thank you, Vera.
Boa noite, colegas da Austrália. Boa noite, colegas boa noite, colegas do Brasil, e bom dia às colegas da Austrália. Bem-vindo a todos aqui ao nosso evento inaugural dessa rede Austrália-Brasil, né? O objetivo desse projeto é aproximar, discutir e fomentar possíveis parcerias na área de pesquisa e engenharia, e hoje é o primeiro evento onde a gente pretende se conhecer um pouquinho de cada um dos dois países. Hoje nós estamos celebrando aqui o início desse projeto. Muito obrigada pela presença de todos, e espero que vocês tenham bons momentos conosco aqui, compartilhando das nossas ideias e nossa parceria. Thank you.
Thank you, Vera. In Australia, we do what is called an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we are situated. We pay our respects to Aboriginal elders, past and present, who are the knowledge holders and teachers, and we acknowledge their continued spiritual and cultural connection to country. As we share knowledge, teaching, learning, and research within our university here in Wollongong, we also pay respect to the knowledge embedded forever within the Aboriginal custodianship of country.
Hello, my name is Professor Valerie Linton, and I'm the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and Information Sciences here at the University of Wollongong. I'm really sorry that I'm not able to be with you today, because it would have been a really interesting event for me too, because I'm also an engineer and my personal interest and specialism is in the area of welding and pipelines. I think bringing our countries together and our universities together in this initiative through the WREN, the Women's Research Engineer Network, is a really fantastic idea and a way for us to work together, partner together, learn together and grow together. I just wanted to acknowledge the funding on our side for this initiative through COLA, the Council of Australian and Latin American Relations. So thank you to them for their support and funding. I want to really encourage you to get involved and learn through this experience. The statistics show that women, as you know, are underrepresented in the engineering disciplines. But one of the ways that we can build our relationships, build our profile, and make engineering more attractive discipline for women is to network, to build partnerships, to build collaboration. And this forum presents the ideal opportunity to do that, because as we build our relationships, collaboration, and publish together, again, the data shows that when you publish more with international authors and collaborators, you improve your profile. And that's what I want for you, is to be able to build your own profiles, your own careers, and work across our two nations. Maybe next time we're having one of these forums, you'll have more universities involved in building the collaboration even further. So I wish you a very successful and engaging event. Don't be afraid to reach out and make friends in collaboration, and I look forward to hearing that it all went very well. Thank you. Hello.
Eu sou Maria Arminda do Nascimento Arruda, socióloga, professora titular da Universidade de São Paulo, e eu coordeno o escritório USP Mulheres da Universidade de São Paulo. Esse escritório foi fundado em 2016 com o objetivo de construir políticas de gênero para a Universidade de São Paulo e que teve também como animação para a sua criação a proposta da ONU a que a Universidade de São Paulo, a USP, sediasse na América Latina o programa He4She. Como é do conhecimento de todos, o programa He4She, Eles para Elas, é um programa da ONU, no qual 10 universidades do mundo foram escolhidas para construir políticas de gênero. Na América Latina, a Universidade de São Paulo é a única universidade. Como se sabe também, a Universidade de São Paulo é uma universidade grande, é a mais importante universidade latino-americana e ela se encontra em muitos índices de produção entre o topo superior das universidades mundiais. A política de gênero na Universidade de São Paulo é uma política que tem já 5 para 6 anos. E isso quer dizer que já tem um caminho nessa direção. O escritório tem um conjunto de atividades, tem 4 áreas centrais, uma área que é uma área de programas voltados para a equidade de gênero, uma outra área que é de pesquisa no campo das desigualdades. Agora acabamos de fazer uma pesquisa sobre a comunidade da Universidade de São Paulo em tempos de pandemia, uma terceira área institucional ligada ao estabelecimento de relações com instituições públicas e privadas e uma última área de comunicação. Portanto, o evento agora que uniu a Universidade de São Paulo e a Universidade de Wollongong da Austrália, no sentido de construir uma rede de pesquisadoras e professoras na área de engenharia, faz parte dos projetos de promoção da igualdade de gênero e de reconhecimento da produção das mulheres numa área tão sensível como das engenharias, tão sensível do ponto de vista da participação feminina. Eu quero, com isso, saudar a todos do seminário neste momento de construção da rede e quero também deixar firmado a relação da Universidade de São Paulo com todas as iniciativas para a construção da igualdade e da equidade de gênero. Muito obrigada.
Thank you for the very warm words of welcome from both Professor Linton and Professor Arminda, and for your support as well. So this last 18 months has been a great time of upheaval as we have navigated a world under pandemic. As we look to the future and how we recover from the effects of COVID, the UN Secretary General highlighted how women are at the center of economic recovery efforts, and that there needs to be women in leadership to ensure that women are represented equally and have their perspective respected within the decisions that are being made. As engineers, we have a thirst to understand how things work and how we can improve the world around us. And now is a great time of change and opportunity to improve the world. So why have we called the network WREN? Well, a wren is actually a species of bird. Until recently, it was presumed that male birds did most of the singing for the primary purpose of attracting mates. And for this reason, birdsong has been studied almost exclusively in male birds, while it was thought that singing from female songbirds was an unusual and rare occurrence. Recently, researchers made a breakthrough discovery about birdsong in tropical species of wrens in South America and Australia. Many of us in Australia might recognise this bird. It's a superb fairy wren, and as you see, the male has a distinctive blue plumage, whereas the female here is brown in colour and is not as easily noticed. study of these birds showed that the female fairy rings actually sing just as much as the males, if not more frequently. And females sing to communicate with other females. Just like these fairy wrens, it has become somewhat entrenched in our societal views that male-dominated fields such as engineering are something that women are traditionally not suited for. Women are a minority in the field of engineering, but why are there so few women in engineering? And this diagram that you can see here is from the Australian Academy of Sciences STEM Decadal Plan, and it looks at the attrition of women in STEM throughout their careers. And each of these branches coming off the main spur in the middle shows the loss of women in the profession and some of the reasons for leaving their potential engineering career. In Australia, 18% of engineering students are women, and only just over half of qualified women engineers actually end up working in the engineering profession. At the early career stage here, we can see various issues from job-related factors such as poor recruitment practices, flexible work and caring responsibilities, as well as lack of job security, to discrimination and harassment. And they say you cannot see it. If you cannot see it, you cannot be it. And this is also true for women engineers looking at the next stage of career progression. There's a lack of role models and mentors to follow and provide advice or guidance to these younger early career researchers. And there's generally unhelpful stereotypes of what engineers should be like within our cultures. At the mid-career stage, women are affected by reduced access to development opportunities, career breaks, and subsequent difficulties in re-entering the workforce. There's lack of flexible work, flawed career advancement, and again, a lack of mentors at the senior level. And finally, at the senior level career stage, there's bias, whether conscious or unconscious, and what some would call the glass ceiling effect with sexism and discrimination. And another interesting one here is the increased pressure to sit on boards to meet diversity targets. Anecdotally, I think that most of the women attending today would have experienced at least one or more of these issues during their studies and careers. And it's no wonder that of our total engineering workforce in Australia, only 12% are women. So for women in research, we also add these additional nuanced issues. And so recent research found that in general, women are less likely to be awarded grants. And then when they do, they tend to receive lower amounts of funding. And a recent article in Nature explored how the pandemic affected women researchers. And they found that female academics are publishing less and initiating fewer research projects. So what can we do to change this narrative? It's going to take a shift in the overall system to attain full gender equity, but we can help to shape the future for a more affirming narrative. And this is really what our WREN, our Women's Research Engineers Network, hopes to achieve. So the aims of the network. Well, first and foremost, we want to connect women research engineers together. We're all on our own career paths and journeys, but we have experiences that we can share and learn together. We want to share the knowledge that we have, both in terms of the technical fields that we perform research in, but also the knowledge we have around opportunities and strategies to navigate a career in research engineering. We want to celebrate the achievements that our members of our network have, and we want to honor our members and embrace the work that you do, as well as help to acknowledge and raise each other's profiles. We aim to create new opportunities, whether it be through awareness of funding avenues in both countries, co-creation of publications, or awareness of other STEM opportunities, women in STEM opportunities. And we will provide an online platform where women will be able to communicate, where we can share our experiences and have our research voices recognized. And finally, having a bilateral network between Brazil and Australia also opens up opportunities for international collaborations in potential grant proposals, joint publications, and co-teaching partnerships. Okay. The WREN is supported by the Commonwealth through the Council on Australia-Latin America Relations, or COLAR, which is part of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. It's a collaboration between the University of Wollongong and the University of Sao Paulo, with the USP Mulheresoffice supporting us. Our organising committee is currently comprised of the 7 of us shown here. There's Dr. Mayna Portela Garcia Barnett, who is a materials engineer from UOW, Dr. Janaina Mascarenas, who is an industrial engineer from USB, Dr. Marcela Bernardo, who is an operations research engineer at UOW, Dr. Vera Lucia Arantes, who is a materials engineer from USB. There's myself, Grace Kennedy, and I'm a systems engineer from UOW. And we also have Dr. Apsara Jayasakara, who is also a materials engineer from UOW. And finally, Dr. Emily Yap, who is an Industry 4.0 research engineer at UOW. For more about the network and to keep in touch with the latest news, you can look us up, like, follow, or subscribe on these social media sites. And if you have any questions about the network or for any of the speakers coming up, please put them in the Q&A box. I'm pleased to introduce Professor Montse Ross. She's the Associate Dean of Education in the Faculty of Engineering and Information Sciences at the University of Wollongong. Her background is in computer systems engineering, in particular embedded and sensor systems. In 2016, she was named a UOW Women of Impact for having inspired countless women to consider a future career in the STEM disciplines. We're super delighted to have Professor Ross share her knowledge and experiences around research engineering from an Australian perspective. Thank you, Montse.
Thank you for that lovely introduction there, Grace. So bear with me while I share my screen. There we go. I hope you can all see that there. So thank you for this opportunity to give a little bit of a brief or a bit of a discussion in particular around University of Wollongong, a bit of background to myself, and a little bit about the Australian academic landscape as well. Let me start by saying, hola, meu nome é Montserrat, ou Montse para abreviar. My name is Montserrat, or Montse for short. No, I don't speak Portuguese, but I do speak Spanish, so I am able to generally follow along relatively well. As Grace introduced, I'm the Associate Dean Education in the Faculty of Engineering and Information Sciences at the University of Wollongong, and I'm an Associate Professor of Computer Engineering. So I'll start off with a bit of an introduction to the University of Wollongong, Australia in general, for those of you who are unaware exactly where our continent is. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the academic landscape in Australia, both for teaching and for research. So some basic information first. The Commonwealth of Australia is a federation of states and territories occupying the mainland of the continent of Australia and numerous islands. It's actually the 6th largest country in the world by total area. And Brazil, you've just pipped us at the post there, coming into 5th place. However, when you look at the population, we couldn't be more different there. So the population of Australia is only 26 million compared to Brazil's over 200 million. Now, in Australia, the most populous state is New South Wales. That's where the Wollongong people are located today. The capital city is Sydney. Most people have heard of Sydney. Well, Wollongong is the 3rd largest city in New South Wales, and it's located about 1 hour south of Sydney. So that gives you a little bit of a frame of reference for where Wollongong is geographically. So Wollongong can be classified as a university city. The university is one of the largest employers in the city. We've got sort of average temperature of 22 degrees Celsius year round, or 27 in summer. The population is just shy of 300,000, so that gives you an idea of the size of the city. As I said, we're not too far south of Sydney, so 85 kilometres to the well-renowned Sydney Opera House. And we've got a bevy of beauties around us with 17 patrolled surf beaches and 11 national parks within 50 kilometres. So who are we at UOW? We're a leading global university founded on the donations of local people. It's powered by our people, partnerships and communities. By challenging industry conventions and having the courage to explore real breakthroughs, we're driven to address society's critical economic, environmental, social and medical challenges. Together we make a better world. And one of the accomplishments that we're particularly proud of at UOW is that we ranked 6th worldwide in the recent Times Higher Education Impact Ratings, that is measuring impact with regards to progress towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. In terms of numbers at UOW, we've got 35 or over 35,000 total student enrolment, with over 160,000 alumni around the world. We've got over 15,000 international students, whether they be onshore or at our offshore campuses. We have a total of 332 degrees on offer, and we have 9 Australian campuses and 4 international UOW campuses. Our research is where discovery meets impact. We're a top 10 Australian research intensive universities with 165 million in research income. And for example, in 2020, we had 3,989 Scopus publications. At the university, we have 5 major research facilities with 95% of UOW disciplines rated high or medium for research impact, and 90% of UOW disciplines at, above, or well above world standard based on the Excellence in Research for Australia benchmarking in 2018. In addition, we've got a range of other achievements, such as top 10% of ranked universities around the world, so within the top 200. As I mentioned before, 6th in the world for impact in terms of SDGs. We've also come in the top 20 or in 14th place of best modern universities in the world. That is the QS top 50 under 50 rankings, or universities who have existed for less than 50 years. So we're one of the best modern universities. In terms of our graduate employment ranking, we rank #1 in New South Wales and ACT. We're top 200 in the world for quality of our graduates as ranked by global employers, and 2nd in Australia for graduate employer satisfaction, based on Quilt surveys, which are an Australian graduate survey system. I've also been asked to talk a little bit about the University of Wollongong's staff profile, and in particular the gender proportion. So unfortunately, the data I have is a little bit out of date. So this data was collected in 2017, so it is about 4 years out of date, but it will give an indication of the distribution of staff at UOW. So in 2017, 50.1% of academic staff and 66.1% of professional and support staff identified as female across the university. Unfortunately, in the Faculty of EIS, that is Faculty of Engineering and Information Sciences, we only have 24.6% of academic staff and 40.3% of professional and support staff identifying as female. So in terms of the university more broadly, we do have a number of international campuses and partners in United Arab Emirates, China, Hong Kong, and Malaysia, and in Singapore. And in terms of our domestic campuses, in addition to our main Wollongong campus and Innovation Campus, where a number of our research institutes are situated, both of those are in Wollongong itself, we also have 3 campuses in Sydney and 4 campuses in regional New South Wales, including down the south coast of the state. In terms of where University of Wollongong ranks in Australia, we rank generally around in the top 10, and you can see there, according to the QS World University Rankings, 196 in the world. Most universities in Australia are public. There are 3 private universities, but they do not tend to feature in the top of the scales for where the research intensive universities sit. So I've also been asked to talk a little bit about the Australian tertiary education system and also around the research grant opportunities. So in terms of accessing higher education in Australia, when a student exits high school with something known as an ATAR, or an Australian Tertiary's admissions ranking, depending on their marks or their ranking, they may be able to enter university directly, or if they've been unable to obtain the necessary marks, they can also enter additional training before entry to university. Some students will choose to enter vocational education and training, and the first 6 levels there of the Australian qualifications framework relate to certificates and diplomas, mainly for competency-based assessed qualifications. So students who wish to pick up a trade, for example, if they want to become an electrician or a gas fitter, then they may opt to get a certificate or diploma. Also, students who perhaps did not achieve the necessary marks to enter directly into a bachelor can also enter vocational education to complete a diploma or advanced diploma and use that as the entrance criteria for their bachelor degree. So I'm not really going to talk a lot about levels 1 to 6. So I'll focus mainly on the last 4 levels, which are university level qualifications. So in Australia, a standard bachelor's degree is a 3-year degree. You can see the AQF level 7 learning outcomes summarises that essentially graduates at this level will have broad and coherent knowledge and skills for professional work and or further learning. Students after these 3 years should be able to analyse and evaluate information, analyse, generate and transmit solutions to unpredictable and sometimes complex problems, and they should be able to work in contexts that require self-directed work and learning within broad parameters to provide specialist advice and functions. Examples of a standard bachelor degree in Australia include a Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Computer Science, etc. Now, some degrees such as engineering are actually a 4-year degree in Australia. So engineering is a Bachelor Honours degree, which is an AQF level 8 program. It should be said that students who complete a Bachelor of, say, Science can opt to add 1 extra year onto the end of their degree to get an honours in science as well. But there is no 3-year degree for engineering. Engineering is only, in the whole of Australia, a 4-year Bachelor Honours level 8 qualification. Now, graduates at this level will have advanced knowledge and skills for professional or highly skilled work. They will also be able to analyse critically and evaluate and transform information to complete a range of activities, and they can analyse, generate and transmit solutions to complex problems. Now, the biggest difference here is they'll be able to demonstrate autonomy, well-developed judgment, adaptability and responsibility as a practitioner or a learner. So that gives a slight more professional requirement for the AQF level 8 criteria. And if a student enters a Bachelor of Engineering Honours and completes within 4 years, they are able to go out into industry and immediately commence working as an engineer. There are additional professional pathways beyond that. So to become a chartered professional engineer generally requires about 5 years of professional work, and that is what is needed to sign off on major contracts. But in terms of a graduate engineering position, then a Bachelor Honours degree is all that is required. Now, in some cases, students with a Bachelor or Bachelor Honours degree may choose to continue on to further study. Master's degrees are popular for students who either wish to slightly change their discipline, their specialisation. So, for example, a student who completed a Bachelor of Engineering in Civil Engineering may wish to come back and complete a Master's in Mining or related field. Depending on the closeness of the degree with their undergraduate bachelor, the master's degree can be usually completed in 1.5 or 2 years. So 2 years is the typical duration for a master's degree, where the undergraduate degree that was completed is not very close. However, if a civil engineering student wishes to simply get a deeper specialization in the same discipline, civil engineering, then their master's degree will take 1 year on top of the 4 year of bachelor's honours. So master's students are expected to analyse, critically reflect on and synthesise complex information, research and apply established theories to a body of knowledge or practice, and interpret and transmit knowledge, skills and ideas to specialist and non-specialist audiences. And finally, the doctoral degree is the PhD. Whoops, excuse me. The doctoral degree is the highest level in the academic qualifications framework. And of course, at this level, as we all are quite aware, the skills required are not just critical reflection, synthesis, evaluation, but also to develop, adapt and implement research methodologies to extend and redefine existing knowledge or professional practice. In the doctorate, they also disseminate and promote new insights and generate original knowledge and understanding to make a substantial contribution to a particular discipline or area of professional practice. So the doctoral degree in Australia is typically 3 to 3.5 years, though it can sometimes take a bit longer, maybe 4 or 5 years, depending on how quick your research breakthroughs are. And in terms of accessing higher degree, because I know that was one of the things that I was asked to discuss, any student with a level 8 Bachelor Honours degree with good marks coming straight out of the level 8, so first class honours, what we would call first class honours, can go directly into a doctoral degree. If the student has not obtained the necessary marks from level 8, then they can also commence a master's degree with the aim of upgrading to the doctoral degree after that. So that's a bit of an overview of the Australian landscape and in particular how it relates to engineering and the education system in Australia. I was also asked to discuss the research funding in Australia and where Australian universities fund research activities from. So most universities take a lot of their income from what are known as research block grants administered by the Department of Department of Education, Skills and Employment. And this is made up both of research training program, that is the facility for fees and scholarships to be paid for both masters and PhD students, depending on their ability. And also the research support program, which covers a number of ancillary costs not covered by other grants. Now, the main Australian nationally competitive grants are either administered by, if they've got a medical objective, it's the National Health and Medical Research Council, or if not, it's the Australian Research Council. Now, as engineers, we often do apply for NHMRC funding, but it must be in conjunction with maybe like a hospital or clinical practitioners or medical researchers in order to obtain that type of funding. But if we're looking at engineering specific or engineering only research or engineering with any other discipline, then it'll generally be the Australian Research Council that provides the competitive grants in this area. The Australian government also provides funding to support industry engagement, things such as CRCs or cooperative research centres, and that's administered by the Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources. There are also research infrastructure programs, such as the National Collaborative Research Infrastructure Strategy, or also the ARC administered Linkage Infrastructure Equipment and Facilities schemes. There are also other public sector research funding that is maybe not awarded on a completely national competitive basis, could be awarded on a state competitive basis. There are National Institutes program grants, and there are state or local government grants. And of course, there are also other sources, things like foundations, philanthropic donations, endowments, crowdfunding, etc. So I'll just talk a little bit about the Australian Research Council. So broadly speaking, the national competitive grant schemes fall under two large categories: discovery program schemes and linkage program schemes. So the discovery program schemes are a combination of individual programs such as fellowships or early career awards. We've got Australian Laureate Fellowships and Future Fellowships, but we've also got team projects, discovery projects, and discovery Indigenous projects for teams led by an Indigenous Australian Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. Generally, discovery programs are more aimed at, somewhat blue sky research and looking at sort of long-term impact. And then we also have linkage program schemes, which allow universities to link with other industry and external partners. So we've got everything from very large ARC centres of excellence through to industrial transformation, linkage infrastructure, equipment and facilities, learned academies, special projects, linkage projects themselves, special research initiatives, and supporting responses to Commonwealth Science Council priorities. So there's a range of schemes depending on eligibility and individual versus group project nature and linking with industry and so on. So let me just zero in a little bit more in terms of UAW's Faculty of Engineering and Information Sciences. I thought I'd give a brief summary of what we provide here in terms of both teaching and research. We've got 6 schools in our faculty. I won't be focusing too much on mathematics, physics, or computer science, but I will be focusing on the 3 engineering schools that we have, and I'll talk a little bit about each of their research strengths. In terms of the faculty, so this is statistics not for the university, but for the faculty. In terms of engineering and technology degrees, we're actually placed 92nd worldwide, 6th in Australia, and 3rd in New South Wales, and that's based on the Times Higher Education World Rankings by subject, so just specifically looking at engineering and technology. In terms of the individual disciplines themselves, we've actually got a top 30 performer in the mineral and mining engineering divisions. We're also top 100 for materials science, civil and structural engineering, top 200 for electrical and electronic engineering and mechanical, and top 250 for computer science, IT, and mathematics. We've got 4 interconnected research clusters. Like I said before, I won't focus too much on mathematics, physics, or computing. I'll be focusing mainly on engineering, but we do have 6 schools, 20 research centres, institutes, and major entities. And we have quite a significant number of collaborative activities with research conducted jointly with staff from other faculties, university research institutes, and centres. So in terms of teaching, the programs that are offered by our faculty include engineering, and you'll notice we have quite a broad range there: architectural engineering, biomedical, civil, computer, electrical, environmental materials, mechanical, mechatronic, mining, and telecommunications. We also offer a Bachelor of Technology, majoring in Industry 4.0 and Cyber Network Security. I won't go through the other undergraduate degrees that we offer, but obviously we are a larger faculty than just engineering. In terms of our master's degrees, we have civil, computer, electrical, environmental, materials, mechanical, mechatronic, mining, telecommunications, and management. So we do have a management master's degree that many of our students come back to take. And we also have 1-year master degrees, which are very specific in nature, and graduate certificates in a range of disciplines. In terms of our research, we have a number of research, what we call powerhouses. So the first one is in civil engineering and structures. So the themes there are around composite materials in infrastructure, steel structures, earthquake engineering, landslide modelling, physical blast simulation in concrete. Mining and resources, themes there around mining safety, geotechnical engineering, ground control, computer applications, rock mechanics and automation. and environmental engineering and water resources. So the themes there around coastal reservoirs, wastewater treatment, water quality, environmental health, microbial corrosion, etc. The next research powerhouses are our mechanical, materials, mechatronics, and biomedical. We've got engineering manufacturing with themes around engineering mechanics, welding engineering, bulk solids and particulate technologies, and intelligent nanoterra systems. We've also got the Engineering Materials Research Centre around materials process engineering, rolling mechanics, pyrometallurgy, special materials applied research and technology, and engineering alloy design and characterization. In addition to this, we also have some major research entities around the Australian Steel Research Hub, Defence Materials Technology Centre, and Facility for Intelligent Fabrication. And the last school is around electrical, computer, and telecommunications. And the powerhouses of research there are around power, energy, and autonomous systems. So these themes include power quality and reliability, renewable energy systems and distribution and generation, intelligent mechatronics for health and medical applications, electric cars, and vehicle technology. We also have the Signals, Information and Communications Research Institute with themes around advanced multimedia, signal and information processing, emerging networks and applications, instrumentation, communications, and wireless technologies. One of the areas that we have focused on quite a lot at UOW is around interdisciplinary research. And probably one of the best examples of this, which is located at our innovation campus, is the Sustainable Buildings Research Centre. So the SBRC includes themes around energy, sustainability and efficiency, sustainable and efficient and resilient buildings, things like human factors in building design, smart buildings, modelling and decision support systems, which brings in quite a number of experts from a wide range of engineering disciplines in the whole faculty. We also have quite a number of industry links with major Australian and international firms who recruit our graduates straight from university. We have constant engagement with industry in terms of research within Australia and internationally. And the final thing I was asked to brief you all about is on existing connections between UOW and universities in Brazil. So the most obvious main connection we have is around the University Global Partnership Network, which is actually a multilateral network between 4 universities around the world. And it's to facilitate sustainable collaboration in all aspects of academic life, research, learning and teaching. And the idea here is to address global challenges. So that includes NC State University in the US, USP in Brazil, University of Surrey in the UK, and UOW in Australia. But in addition to this, we also have some collaboration with a number of universities in Brazil. So this is the information that we've gathered from the sort of collaborations office. And we have a range of collaborations with universities, something as simple as could just be a memorandum of understanding. So an MOU is really a broad agreement, and without knowing the details of any individual MOU, it is just a broad agreement to work together as two institutions. We have student exchange agreements. So this is where one student in Brazil and one student in Australia can exchange for one semester, and the students just only pay fees to their home university. So it's very easy to exchange one for one. And then we also have study abroad. So where, for example, there is an imbalance, maybe more students from one country want to go to the other country, and we cannot find a one-to-one relationship, then that's called study abroad. And we have some relationships with the universities where our students can go and study there, even if there is no reciprocating partnership in terms of student exchange agreement. So I think that's everything that I was asked to talk about. I'm happy to answer any questions, perhaps towards the end of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Ross, for that, for the talk to Introduce Australia. I'm going to just share my screen one more time. Oops, sorry. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me try that one more time. Okay. So we're also really honoured to be having Professor Roseli de Deus Lopes come to talk to us today as well. She's the Deputy Director of the Institute of Advanced Studies, Associate Professor at USP's Polytechnic School, Coordinator of Scientific Initiation Programs at the Dean's Office for Research, and the Vice Coordinator of the Interdisciplinary Centre in Interactive Technologies, also at USP. She is the General Coordinator of the Brazilian Science and Engineering Fair for BRACE, which she founded. It is a national movement of international projection to encourage young scientists and is held annually as a large exhibition of research projects developed by school students. She's a member of the board of the Brazilian Society of the Progress of Science. And we're really honoured to hear from Professor Deus Lopes today. Thank you for joining us online and sharing more about research engineering in Brazil. Professor Deus Lopes, would you like me to play the video for USP first before you speak?
No, at the end, please, at the end.
At the end, okay, no worries. In which case I will hand over the sharing to you.
Let me just share my screen. This one. Can you see? Okay. Well, it's a great honor to be here with you. Good night for the Brazilians and good morning for the Australians. I'm going to do just a short presentation today for you, just to have an overview of our country and of the possibilities to collaborate with the University of São Paulo. So you already know who I am, so I will skip this. I'm just going to say something here about FEBRASE, that we are really concerned to attract more talents for science and engineering. So not only we are working in the university, but we are working with pre-college students, trying to attract more girls and more passion people to work with science and technology. So we could, I would like very much to discuss with you how could it share opportunities, Brazil and Australia, for this age also. Well, Brazil, as you told, Montserrat, how do you pronounce Montse? How you said Montse? Is a huge country, and we have a huge population. So we have more than 200 million people. It's almost half and half, male and female. In the past, we had lots of children. Now the population is changing a little bit. The population pyramid is changing a little bit. So the most people are from 15 to 64 years old. Our population increased a lot in the 19th and 20th century, mainly because of a very, very huge immigration, not only from Portugal, but also Italians, Spaniards, Germans, Japanese. We have the second biggest Japanese population, especially in São Paulo. And when we look to our population now, we can say that the majority of people here are mixed race, because as you probably know, we had slavery, so we have black people, and now we have around 46 mixed race that they auto-declare themselves as mixed. Just 42 white, 9.5 for black, and around 1.1 Asian or native indigenous. The population of indigenous here is really small right now compared to the complete population. In higher education, we have different types of institutions. We have universities that are mainly responsible for the research, not only the undergrad studies and graduate studies, but also research. We have university centers that they do not need to carry out research, but they have similarities with universities. We have institutes. Those institutes are really spread all over the country, and they conduct research, but not in many areas. Usually they are regional They are focused on regional characteristics. And also we have several faculties spread all over the country. And the top 20 Brazilian universities, considering a ranking that we have here in Brazil, our university, University of São Paulo, is the first one. And among these 20, we have only 2 that are private, that are Catholic universities. So Católica from Rio Grande do Sul and Rio de Janeiro are here. And as you can see, Estadual, we have some universities that belongs to the states. For example, this one is from the state of São Paulo. And this second one, Estadual de Campinas, is also from the state of São Paulo. We have some that belongs to the federal government, so they are federal. This one is also from the state of São Paulo, and so on. So mainly you can see federal universities, and those 2, 3 here, they are from the state of São Paulo. What else? We have a huge country, but the majority of the population is concentrated here in the southeast. So we have 42% of our population in the southeast. That's where we have 85 universities. So we have more concentration here, but also we have the majority of population here. But as you can see here, we are on a process of having other very good universities in other areas of the country. In terms of enrollment, after 2000, we increased a lot the public universities and also the private. Of course, the private are growing much faster because the population is really huge, and we are trying to increase. I don't remember the numbers right now, but we are trying to increase the opportunities for people to do higher level education. Not only studying public universities, but also we have some grants and opportunities to study and to pay, and you can use the money from the government and pay back after you start working. So the system increased a lot in the last years, in the last 20 years. If we take a look at engineering, it's around 15% of all that students that are enrolled in engineering. The majority of those in private institutions. And here we have around 29% in public universities. In terms of quality, if we compare private and public, what we have. If you take it here, we have performance here. So federal public and state public are the best institutions that we have in terms of performance. So we are increasing the number of opportunities to go to higher school, but we also need to improve performance. Right now, the best performance are those from the public institutions. In terms of research programs, we have many opportunities to have exchange with Australians. Of course, we can have undergrad students here. With some countries, and especially in Europe, we have opportunities of double diploma, undergrad double diploma, but I think we do not have yet with Australia, but we could have internships and other opportunities. We have other opportunities in graduate level as master, doctoral, postdoctoral, and also visiting researcher grant for senior researchers. We have two main agencies at federal level, that is CAPES and CNPq. But for example, if we are doing cooperation with industries, we have other opportunities. We have FINEP that I didn't put here, but we have other agencies that support bigger projects, not individual grants, but projects where in this kind of projects we can have grants for people to do research. And in Brazil, we have 27 states, and not all the states, but the majority of states have their own state agency. In São Paulo, we have a very strong, it's the first agency in Brazil, and it's the strongest, that is called FAPESP. We have many opportunities of research in basic science, but also in cooperation with industry. We have several programs supported by FAPESP. For example, just to give an example, there are some programs with FAPESP where a company puts an amount of money, for example, 1 million, and FAPESP will put another 1 million. So we have cooperation in artificial intelligence. For example, we have a program that is with partnership with IBM. So half part is supported by FAPESP and half by IBM, and so on, long-term projects for 5 or 10 years. Well, let's talk a little bit about our university, that is the University of São Paulo. Where is São Paulo? Well, São Paulo is here, this red dot here. And the state of São Paulo University, it's maintained by the state of São Paulo. It's a public university. The students do not pay any fee. The undergrad and graduate, nobody pays any fee to study at the University of São Paulo. We have campus in 8 different cities. I'm based in this one, in São Paulo. Janaína and Vera, they are based in São Carlos. This picture is in the São Paulo city where I am. Our university is 87 years old, so it's younger compared to American and to European universities. It's young. We have 48 schools and specialized institutes. We have museums, we have hospitals, we have lots of libraries. The number of students enrolled in total is almost 90,000. We have 340 undergrad programs, and we have 264 different graduate programs. We have foreign students, not only in graduate programs, but also in undergrad programs. What else? Well, we have more information here. If we look at the numbers, we have almost half men, half women, if we look at the students as a whole. But if we look to engineering, we are around 20% when we have undergrad students, and maybe a little bit bigger number for the graduate programs. But if we take a look at the numbers of professors as a whole, we have around 37% of women at the whole USP. But if we take a look at the engineering schools, I think it's around 15%. I need to check the information because every year it changes a little bit. But we have a very long road to go. For example, I'm in one of the schools of engineering here at USP, and in 127 years, because our school is older than USP, it was created before. In 127, it's the first time that we have a director, a woman director. So we have many, many things to change. I don't know if we can see this image, it's very small. But if we take a look at USP, we have majors in almost all areas. If we look here, the blue one, the dark blue, it's the engineering. So if we consider the number of places for majors offered at the University of São Paulo, we have an expressive number of engineering opportunities for undergrad here. we have 3 different engineering schools, one in São Carlos, another one in Lorena, and another one in São Paulo and Santos. We have activity in 2 different cities. Sorry. And in all these 3 schools, we have undergrad and we have graduate opportunities. I didn't put all of them here. I can do a more detailed presentation in another opportunity, but we have many different areas, and we have a very strong cooperation with industries and also public and private opportunities for research and for growing. Just taking a look at the opportunities for undergrad, we have a very strong area in mechanical, chemical, electric engineering production, and so on. Yeah, so we have many other areas. And I want to show you a video because our university is very nice and we want to have you here as soon as possible. So I would ask Grace, could you play our video, please?
So I'll get that going now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Professor Ross and to Deus Lopes for giving us such a thorough overview of the education and research in our 2 countries. At this event, we started with UOW and USP, but we seek to widen our network to all universities and research groups within Australia and Brazil at our future events. So now we go into this period of questions and answers. As you can see, there's a little Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can put your questions and answers in there, and we'll seek to address them to our panelists. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second so we can see all our panelists. Hello, everybody. Fine. So I see that we have quite a few questions that's come through in the chat. So let's see. Okay. Oh, okay. I've got another screen just coming in. The lovely Mina has popped up from downstairs and she's in my office now. Okay. So the first question is for Professor Montse. Okay. So Daniela asks, I received my PhD in 2020. Are there opportunities like postdoctoral positions at UOW? And how can one apply or find these opportunities?
Okay, so I can talk a fair bit about this. The problem is, of course, right now, it's a little bit difficult because our borders are closed. So what I'll do is I'll tell you what normally happens, but obviously right now it's a little bit difficult. I saw the question before, so I thought I've already gone to find, I'm going to share my screen here. So normally what I recommend to budding researchers who are looking at doing a postdoctoral fellowship in any institution really in Australia, but certainly the UOW one, I'd recommend that they apply for what's known as the Vice Chancellor's Research Fellowships. So you find this under our research awards and achievements, and it's just called the Vice Chancellor's Research Fellowships. Of course, due to COVID-19 disruptions, the scheme is currently not, it wasn't advertised in 2020 for starting in 2021. So I do not know if any decision has been made yet for the next round, which would be advertised later this year for starting in 2022. A lot of this will depend on the borders. But so there's a number of postdoctoral research fellowships across any discipline. And it just shows you it's a 3-year appointment with academic salary and so on. So the way you apply is all explained below. But certainly one of the things that you need to know about Australian postdoctoral opportunities is that they must be advertised in the same way that a job is advertised in a company or any normal hiring processes. So all applications are still via the UOW jobs website. So if I click on here, for example, and I had a bit of a look, there's not a lot of jobs going at the moment, but I had a look and there is one research engineer, research fellow. So if you're interested in an associate research fellow, but there are other obviously jobs there as well. So if I have a quick look at this one, this is a fixed term, 6 months. So this is a 6-month appointment. It's not a postdoctoral, but it does give you a little bit of an idea. It's in the School of Mechanical Materials, Mechatronic and Biomedical Engineering, etc. So although this is not a postdoctoral opportunity right now, this is where you would find the opportunity. So one way is to go to the different universities and look to see what jobs are available, and any postdoctoral opportunities will be available there. The other option is to go through databasing services, things like, LinkedIn does this, but there are, seek.com.au. These are databases of job openings in Australia, and you should be able to find postdoctoral opportunities there as well.
Thank you, Montse. Okay, so our second question is for Professor Roseli. Sorry. What is the hardest part in establishing a collaboration with other researchers?
Well, usually the hardest part is to get the grant. So depending on the area, depending on the size of the ideas you have, the most difficult part is to get the grant. But I think the easiest thing and the most valuable thing we have is connections. So if you have an idea and you want to make it happen, start talking. For example, at USP, we have several programs where we can also have volunteers, because sometimes people want good opportunities, because our university is a public university. So if you enter as a volunteer, you can have access to all the infrastructure of the university, all the labs and so on. So many researchers start some months as volunteers, And meanwhile, they write very good proposals for FAPESP, for instance, and got a grant later on. So we can do both ways, or we start doing something, develop the project, submit to a funding agency, or we can start the collaboration, exchanging ideas, exchanging research, and later on writing a joint proposal.
Thank you, Professor. The next question is back to Montse again. So yeah, sort of it follows on from the previous question where we looked at advancement phases. Well, how can senior professionals to prevent this attrition of women engineers from early to mid to senior levels? How can senior professionals help early career researchers to succeed, assuming that the senior professors tend to have access to more grants that have more publications? So what can be done for senior women in engineering to help those coming through?
Well, one of the things that our university does is a mentoring program. So we do have an official mentoring program, and it's not just within engineering, it could be broader than, across the entire university. And this allows early and mid-career female researchers and educators to reach out and seek a particular mentor either in a field or that has the kind of knowledge that they're interested in. And this mentor relationship is established, and it generally runs its course through about 6 to 12 months. And it allows some of that knowledge to be passed on. Certainly, there's always obviously the obvious things of if you're working in the exact same area, then including the younger academics in your own grant applications and so on. But it's not always the case that we're working in quite exactly the same area. So I think a lot of the benefit is actually around how to navigate the academic landscape rather than the actual applications themselves. Or it might even be a case of proofreading applications for grants and things like that.
Thank you, Montse. And there's a number of questions in the chat that have come through asking us specifically about different areas of engineering. And I think what we might do is we may answer those ones offline to help build these contacts separately, rather than answer individual requests for those questions at least.
Can I answer one of them though, if you don't mind, Grace?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Just the one question around how to do a PhD at UAW. So just like before I said, all postdoctoral opportunities are advertised as jobs. A PhD is still a study. So you can go, and actually I'll just share my screen again. Oh, and I've lost it now, hang on. Oh, I've been doing this sort of stuff. Hang on a second. Let me just find the, apologies. Graduate Research Centre, that's the one I'm after. So if you're looking to do high degree research, so that's Masters by Research or PhD, then we actually have something called the Graduate Research School. So this is specifically for students who wish to do the higher research, the level 9, level 10 qualifications. And it takes you through how do you find a supervisor, how do you go through admissions information, frequently asked questions, etc., depending on whether, and there's also information about scholarships for international students, etc. So there's actually a specific, if I go to admissions information, I think, yeah, there's a whole heap of how does the Australian differ to elsewhere, and so on. But the bit I was looking about, here we go. So to find a supervisor, we actually have these positions called Head of Postgraduate Studies in each of the faculties. So I think someone was talking about civil engineering, someone was talking about electrical engineering. These would be the people to speak to about doing higher study, and there's one email for all of them. If you want to do any kind of research, then that's the email. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Montse. And so this next question is for both universities, and it's, are there any specific funding programs to help support women researchers? And maybe we could start with our USP group. So Professor Deus Lopes, would that be okay for you to answer?
Well, good question. I don't know if we have any specific, if we know, if we have, I still don't know if we have a specific grants for women. sometimes what we have in Brazil, we changed a little bit some laws in the terms of, for example, if you are asking for a grant, sometimes the analysis of your curricula is very hard. And they do not, in the past, they did not consider, for example, if you had a baby or something. So we recently changed some of these rules, trying to compensate if, for example, if you have had a baby, so that they would consider, instead of considering the last 5 years, they will consider the 7 last years and so on. But sometimes we have special awards for women, but I don't know any special grants that only are only for women. I don't know if Janaína and somebody that is here that knows, but maybe if you have, we should create in Brazil also. You need to teach us, and we would create this also.
And so, yes, so is there anyone else from USP who might want to, would you like to add anything?
I guess here in Brazil, we have the public grant for scholarship, and that for sure it's not, we don't have like a grant just for women, but we might have some industries that are doing joint projects with us, and these industries might focus for women. But that's not like the regular scholarship that we used to have here, because you bear in mind that when you enter in a University of São Paulo program, you will compete for a scholarship anyway. All programs have their own federal and state grant for scholarships, and then you can apply for others. So here is a little bit different, the grant for graduate programs.
Thank you, Janina. Okay,
Grace?
and so maybe, sorry, President, after you.
I'm sorry, I would like just to complement on information, because last year we had some new calls in a partnership with the Provost of Graduate Studies and the USP Women's Office. So now a graduate student female, they can have 2 more months of paid leave, because in Brazil, the federal agencies, they pay just for 4 months. And graduate students at USP now have 6 months of maternity leave. And also men can have 1 month of paid leave, also in graduate level. And the same as Professor Roseli was talking before, we have some changes to consider maternity in the early faculty's career, to not make them have some difficulties in appraisals or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you. And so for those who didn't know, Janina and Fazlena from USP as well. Okay, and so over to the Australian side, Montse, do we have any specific grants available for women?
No, so unfortunately we don't have any specific grants. It's the same sort of issue there, but we've had this relative to opportunity system as a part of our national competitive grants for quite a number of years now. So what it means relative to opportunity. So grant applications must be assessed for equity reasons against the reasonable opportunities afforded to that individual. So this includes the kind of things that Professor Roseli was talking about before. If a woman takes time off to have babies or whatever, this must be taken into account. So part of the grant proposal, there's the proposal itself, you apply for the money, but there is a section where you can also specify where you have had your opportunities diminished in some way. So it doesn't just apply to women, it can apply to any individuals who have experienced health medical problems, or for whatever reason have been unable to operate at sort of full capacity, if that's the right, that's a horrible way of saying that, but they've had their career interrupted in some way.
Thank you, Montse. And so I think we're almost out of time. So I've got one last question. It's maybe a little tricky one, but it's for both Professor Deus Lopes and Professor Ross. You're both amazing trailblazers for our current and future generations. Change is not easy. We know that. And sometimes we need to challenge the status quo. I was wondering if you could share some of the key challenges that you've both encountered. So maybe we'll start with Professor Deus Lopes this time. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, my husband has arrived and he's very noisy. Sorry. Wow. Brazil is a very machist. I don't know if this word exists in English. Machist country.
Chauvinist.
Yeah. So in the beginning of my career, it was so naturalized in our country that many things happened with me, and I said, "Oh, this is normal." And now that I'm older, now I understand that it's not normal, that we need to change. And also that sometimes the male, they think the same, they think it's normal, it's like this. So we need to make it clear for them and for us, for women also, that we need to change, that we need to divide the work at home, that we need to respect. Because sometimes, for example, in my career, sometimes I was saying the same thing that my colleagues said later on, but when I said, nobody take into account. And later on, when somebody repeated the same thing, they said, "Oh, very good idea." I said, "But the idea was mine." Come on. So, but things are changing. Our students right now, their voice is much stronger. Sometimes we have troubles with the boys because they say, "Oh, you're being so hard." But I think sometimes we need to be hard to be listened. And I think that movement from USP Mulheres is very nice, the he for she. We need to work together. And for example, when we do a talk, when we do an event, sometimes we put lots of names, and I say, "Well, what are the women in this list?" So we need to be all the time taking attention and trying to be more, not only in terms of gender, but also, for example, not only in Brazil, but especially in Brazil, that where I am, we need to see if we are having the representativeness that we need to have in all areas.
Thank you. And over to Montse.
It's interesting. I mean, I don't consider myself a trailblazer. I'm in a funny sort of in the middle of the sort of generations, because I feel like I had a trailblazer generation before me. So 15 years ago, when I came to this university, when I came to the department, I doubled the number of females. By that, I mean, we went from 1 female to 2. So I really looked to the other female, who was an associate professor at the time. I was a lecturer. I looked to her for leadership and guidance, but she really did the trailblazing. She came to the department when there were no females, and a lot of changes were made to accommodate a new female. And now we have 3 or 4. So the times are changing. From my perspective, like I said, I don't feel like I've been too much of a trailblazer, because there have been some amazing women that have gone before me. But one of the things that I have noticed, and one of the things that I feel I wish to contribute to, is that when I was going through and working my way up, I benefited from the fact that I have, to put it politely, an aggressive personality type. So I did not really, nothing fazed me in the respect of what we're talking about. And but you should not have to be a female with an aggressive type to be a female in engineering. This is the big difference that I see. So in the past, those that really wanted to, and perhaps stubbornly wanted to become engineers, could have. The people before me proved it. But what I'm fighting for is for any female to be able to come into engineering, regardless of personality type or disposition. And so one of the things that I very much focus on, exactly like Professor Roseli was talking about, is that when I'm in meetings with younger female academics and they have a brilliant idea, I make sure I repeat it and say, I agreed with Grace's fantastic idea, or what Emily said earlier was fantastic, I agree with it, because I do think that that improves the voice of those younger females who maybe aren't as confident, and the ones that we're losing early in the pipeline because they either don't want to or can't continue headbutting against the more patriarchal system. So that's my view of the world. I'm somewhere in, I'm not really a trailblazer, I'm in the middle and I'm trying to improve things.
Thank you, Montse, and thank you for the insights that you've both given us today. And so let me just share the screen so we can just do some conclusions. All right. Okay, so we've got a number of future events coming up. Next month, we'll have speakers from our 2 countries discussing gender equity issues, in particular the barriers to opportunities for and intersectional gender equity in academia. So we'll continue some of our discussions that we've had today. In July, we hope to hold a workshop to enable researchers to connect with others in similar areas of research, to share knowledge and seek out opportunities to collaborate. And in August, we'll have a special Boost Forum, which will look at how we can enhance collaborations between our different WREN members. And then finally in September, we'll be more future facing and we'll celebrate the genesis of our network, the launch of the WREN's website, which will have a research expertise search engine that will help members to find others to collaborate with. And so we also want to know, well, what do you need? So we welcome all sorts of ideas, ideas big and small, suggestions and feedback that you can provide to us on how to make things better. Also, the different ways that you want to be engaged with. You know, we're doing webinars, we'll have online social media and things like that. So are there other forms of engagement that you might want to look at? And also, we appreciate we're one network amongst many other networks working towards the same thing. And so if there's any other existing networks globally or in our different countries, then we seek to engage with them as well. And so, yeah, the main question is, how do you join the WREN? And so joining the network is free. There's no membership fees and there's no minimum commitment in terms of your attendance at all the different events. Our network is open to all who support women's equity in engineering. Our world is not exclusively women, and we need all genders to support equity initiatives to call out injustice here. Our website will be launching soon with more information about the network and ways to engage with us. And as you've registered with your email address to attend our event today, you'll automatically receive an invitation to join our network. And you can keep up to date with the latest news and help us to build our network through the social media as well. And so here are all our links again. Thank you to today's esteemed speakers for sharing about your countries, educational systems, and research practices. And thank you also to all the organizing committee. And most of all, thank you to all of you for attending. And we appreciate that you're staying up late in Brazil and getting up very early in Australia to join us as well. And we hope that this is really the seeding of our network that can now spread out and grow. And let's continue to reach out across the world. Vera, would you like to say a thank you in Portuguese as well?
Ok, obrigada. Uma ótima semana a todos. Eu acho que aqui eu aprendi bastante, tenho certeza que todo mundo tem aprendido. Vou fazer um apelo para que todo mundo espalhe essa nossa iniciativa para que mais pessoas possam participar no próximo evento. Bye, bye.
Thank you. And after the meeting ends today, there will be feedback questions that will pop up, and we'd love to hear your feedback and the ways that we can improve this. Thank you again for attending.
Thank you all.